Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel, or maybe welcome back to the channel if you've been here before. My name is Keenan. This is the Sound and Fury podcast. I just riff on ideas, things that I'm thinking about. And today I want to talk to you about Metallica Load. I obviously love this record since I have the record. Probably a safe bet to say, I'm a fan. It's a bit of a controversial record, so I wanted to talk about it. What made me want to talk about this was that I saw recently that Metallica is preparing to do a residency at the Las Vegas Sphere, which will probably occur next year. And next year is a 30th anniversary of the record that I just held up for you. Let me grab my drink here real quick. So 30 years since Load. Obviously a super controversial record when it came out. A lot of fan backlash and criticism, things like that. But I don't know if you've noticed over the last couple of years, it seems like the album has aged quite well. I'm starting to see more people come around to say, you know what, I didn't like it when it came out, but I listen to it now and it sounds different, or I hear it differently. And of course, there's always going to be people that say, no, fuck that shit sucks, I never liked it, I never will like it, they sold out, blah, 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 blah. Those tired, very tired criticisms that we've all heard about Metallica many, many times over the years. And I'm not saying that is invalid. Like, if that's how you feel about it, fine, whatever. It's just also kind of like, all right, well, if that's how you feel about it, cool. Go listen to the old records or go listen to something else. We've all heard that. And I've come to the conclusion that there really aren't many new opinions about Metallica. Like, everything that could possibly be said has probably already been said. And that includes maybe some of the things that I'm going to say today. But maybe I will say something that makes you think about something in a different angle. It's like, oh, I never really thought about it that way before. So what I'd like to do is kind of back up a little bit before the album actually came out. Metallica put out Kill 'Em All in 1983. So between 1983 and 1995, basically everyone in heavy metal and like hard rock music were kissing these dudes' asses, like licking the fucking sweat off of the back of their ball sack, just you know. I mean, these guys, yeah, there were some critical voices when the Black Album came out from longtime fans that felt like the band was moving in a direction that was maybe a bit more commercial and mainstream. But some of those voices all of those voices, I would say, were probably drowned out to the guys in Metallica. They weren't hearing that shit. What they were hearing was the millions upon millions of people saying, you guys fucking rule, you're the best band ever, right? I mean, these guys, how many times do you think James Hetfield has heard, your music saved my life, or something to that effect? Like, these guys have been told hundreds of thousands of times that, somebody was like, dude, I was going to end my life and you guys got me through it, or my mom or my brother or my sister or my girlfriend, my wife, whatever, somebody was dying or was in the hospital or whatever, and it was only through your music that I was able to, find the strength to just wake up every day and keep doing it, right? Keep living. So these guys have had those kinds of experiences a lot, right? And then they sell all these records. Obviously, the Black Album is still to this day the highest selling heavy metal album of all time. And if you look at the cultural changes and the musical landscape that changed between the release of the Black Album and the release of Load, it's hard to imagine Metallica not thinking like, wow, we really have changed the game here. Pretty much all of their competition was hung out to dry. I mean, in the 80s, Motley Crue was like the name the fucking band. Everybody, Motley Crue ruled the fucking 80s, right? And by the time Load came out, Motley Crue was in the fucking dust. Like, nobody wanted to hear that shit anymore. It looked, sounded goofy. No, everyone was like, fuck that shit. Nobody wanted any part to do with anything that even had a whiff of Aquanet to it, right? And even some of the more traditional heavy metal bands were not really doing all that well. Iron Maiden lost Bruce Dickinson and had their third lead singer and were not doing well in the mid 90s. Same thing with Judas Priest. Judas Priest lost Rob Halford and they were not, at the heights that they were in 1984, 86. Judas Priest, like once Metallica came out, it was like all those bands started to kind of lose their footing. In 1988, when Metallica put out And Justice for All and the video for One, and their profile really shot up, like not just, hey, we kicked ass on the tour with Ozzy and opening up for Ozzy, and now we're kind of on the ascent. Once they entered, suburban America homes through MTV, it was like over for everyone else, all of their fucking peers. I mean, Metallica dusted Slayer. They obviously dusted Megadeth. Dave Mustaine was playing catch up to Metallica for years, right? Anthrax, who the fuck gives about Anthrax, right? Bon Jovi fucking lost his shit, like every fucking band that Metallica was in competition with in the 1980s was like left standing there going, where the fuck did these guys? How them? They fucking were just ratty little street urchins. They fucking, nobody expected it. Nobody expected Metallica to reach the kind of success that they did. So when they did, they probably looked back and went, we fucking won. We won. We're the fucking winners here. We are the ones who set a new standard. We're the ones who outsold all of these motherfuckers. Motley Crue ain't got nothing on us. Bon Jovi ain't got nothing on us. You know what I mean? Like, these guys were just crushing it. When you're fucking stacking W after W after W, at some point you're probably going to be like, yeah, motherfucker, what? I'll do whatever the fuck I want, and everybody's going to love it. Which brings us up here to 1996. These guys start going into the studio and go, you know what? We've been going around the world. We've met a bunch of people. We've had all these fucking new experiences. There's a bunch of new music out there that some of it we like, some of it we don't like, but there's new things to be inspired by, and there's old things to be inspired by. And in the mid-90s, Black Sabbath was going through a kind of a renaissance, at least Black Sabbath music, not the band, but the music itself in the mid-90s. People were like, having that 20-year nostalgia thing with albums like, Paranoid and Master of Reality and Sabotage and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath and all those Black Sabbath records that came out in the mid-70s. 20 years later, people are coming around going, man, that shit fucking ruled. That's real fucking metal. That's the stuff that was really cool. That slow, doomy, heavy, groovy kind of stuff, right? And of course, newer bands like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden adopting that into their sound. I think Metallica was like, well, look, we've been doing this fast, high energy kind of stuff, which is essentially an off spurt from the Judas Priest style of metal. Why don't we try to go back and incorporate more of the Black Sabbath heavy, groovy kind of vibes, put that into our music, and we see this band Alice in Chains out there. Everyone, all the metalheads, maybe not all of them, but a bunch of fucking metalheads in the 90s loved Alice in Chains. Like, a lot of metalheads did not like grunge music, fucking Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, Pearl Jam. Like, yeah, some dudes liked it, but a lot of people in metal, like true metalheads, were like, fuck that shit, that shit's boring, it's lame, it sucks. But Alice in Chains was kind of like the approved band. This was like the metalheads grunge band. It was like, yeah, all that shit sucks except for, Alice in Chains is cool and Soundgarden's cool, but fuck Nirvana, fuck Bush, fuck you know, spin doctors and all that fucking lame shit. Nobody really, you know, fucking Jane's Addiction. Maybe, you know, there's always going to be the people who are a little bit more open-minded to things. But if you're like a real fucking, you know, rivet head, metalhead kind of guy, you're probably not, in the mid-90s, you're probably not like super stoked on Faith No More or whatever. You want heavier shit, right? So Metallica's thinking, well, let's bring some of that Black Sabbath kind of vibe into our tunes. Black Sabbath was pretty progressive for their time. You listen to songs like Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and there's like this whole little acoustic passage in the fucking middle of the song, right? So these guys are probably like, well, why can't we do stuff like that? We don't have to have just every song be, you know, a straight up, you know, metal onslaught. And obviously with the Black Album, they kind of changed up their formula a little bit with songs like Nothing Else Matters and The Unforgiven. And as much as those songs are like super overplayed and a lot of people are like, dude, I could fucking go the rest of my life and never hear Nothing Else Matters again and it'd be a day too soon, right? The fact of the matter is that song was very successful for them. When you do something that fucking yields positive results in your life, when you make a song and it gets put on the TV and all of a sudden there's a bunch of chicks showing up at your show that weren't there before, and fucking hotties at that too, you know, a bunch of hot metal chicks, you're like, oh, this is awesome. I'm stealing all the fucking chicks that were at the Guns N' Roses concerts and the Motley Crue concerts. Like, they're now coming over here to Metallica because we're doing something a little different that is welcoming them into the fold as well. Our shows aren't 95% sweaty fucking angry young white guys. There's some chicks here now too. This is awesome. I promise you, if you were in this position, you would be stoked as fuck. You would be like, yes, that worked. Not only did our crowd size increase, but we also got more girls to come to the show, and it seems like everybody's having a good time, except for the fucking 150 dudes that, you know, want us to be like Death Angel or whatever, right? So, fuck them. We're going to keep doing what we want to do because it seems to be working out. We're fucking stacking W's here, and everybody seems to like what we're doing. So, I think that was the mentality that they had at the time. And they're like, it doesn't matter what musical direction we go because it seems like people just like whatever we're doing, and we're going to kind of build upon the things that we're already doing and see what happens from there. So they write all these songs, which would end up becoming Load, and they put this record out. Now, a lot of people will say that it's just an entirely too long of a record. It's 74 minutes. They should have cut it down. They should have only used the strongest like 8 or 10 songs or whatever. Put out an hour. They could have cut out 15 minutes, or they could have cut out 20 minutes. I know there's somebody out there right now saying they could have cut out the whole fucking album. Fuck you. I know a lot of people are like, it's just too long. But consider this. In the 90s, how much was a CD? Like almost $20, right? If you went to the record shop and you gave them a $20 bill, they would hand you back Metallica's Load and maybe $1.50, $2.37, $3 maybe, kind of depending on where you're at, how much you're paying for it. But you're not going to get $10 back, which means you spent $20. Effectively, you spent $20 on a CD. If you spend the $20 and you get 75 minutes worth of music, it seems like a good value. It's like, oh, okay, well, I got more for my money. If I like these songs, I've got 75 minutes, whereas, you know, you buy another record, you spend $20 fucking dollars, and it's maybe an hour. And at the time in the 90s, dude, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the 90s, there was this thing. It's mostly a rap thing, but there was this thing where there was fucking skits and interludes and intro songs, and they would pad a record, so you would look at the back and go, wow, there's 14 tracks, but then there's an intro that's 30 seconds long, there's an outro that's 30 seconds long, so now you're down to actually 12 tracks, right? But in the middle of that fucking thing, There's another fucking 45-second bullshit. So there's really only 11 songs, but they're padding the fucking track listing to make it look like there's more to it. And yeah, it's an hour long. Maybe it's even still a good record. But if you look at some of these albums, it's like, I mean, Typo Negative was kind of a fucking guilty of this. You know, if you turn on October Rust, you know that or no, not October Rust, World Coming Down. I know that's a little bit after Black or after Load, but what I'm trying to say is, if you look at a couple of the Typo Negative songs, they're not really songs. They're just kind of like sounds for a couple of minutes, or you know, it takes up like 2 or 3 minutes of music on the record, maybe 5 minutes of music on the record. It's just bullshit, right? It's like, no, I just want the song. I just need the meat, right? When in the 80s, they didn't really do that. If you pick up an Iron Maiden record, you pick up a Judas Priest record, there's really not a bunch of fucking stupid, like, jokes and things like that on the record. Typo Negative's Skip It is kind of what I'm referring to. It's like, oh, I hope you enjoyed our little joke there. You put the fucking CD in, and it sounds like it's skipping. It's like for like 30 seconds, right? It was on purpose. They did that as a joke, and it is kind of funny. But again, when you're going into a record shop and you look at the back and you go, okay, there's 15 fucking songs here. I'm gonna pay my $20. You get it, and the first song makes it sound like the fucking CD's broken. You're like, what the fuck is going on? Kind of irritating a little bit, maybe, to some people. But Metallica, you know, they're like, okay, well, we'll put the 14 fucking songs on there, and there's no fucking jokes here. There's no fucking skits. There's no interludes. There's no dick and fart jokes. There's no bullshit. It's just us fucking playing the fucking tunes. And you don't have to listen to all the songs. If you don't like the, you know, that song or the other song, fucking skip it. It's the age of the CD. All you gotta do is fucking, I don't like this song, you know? So, in one respect, it's kind of like, okay, well, these guys are just giving their fans as much as they possibly can for their money. Stack the fucking album. Put as much fucking music on there as you can. So, I don't really see a problem with that, though it does kind of clash with the artistic integrity of like making a very potent album where there isn't a lot of extra songs. You know, it's just like, look, these are the best 8-10 songs that we have, the best 12 songs that we have, and that's what you get, and it's fucking worth every penny, right? It's just a different way of looking at it. I think in the 90s, those guys were like, we have all this fucking money, we've got all this time, studio fucking equipment, we've written all these songs, we might as well give it to the fans. You know what most bands would do? You know what most bands would do? They would fucking hold on to like 5 or 6 of those fucking tracks, and then a year later, they'd release a special edition that had like 2 extra songs, right? So now you gotta go out and buy the fucking album again. Roadrunner Records in the early 2000s was no fucking notorious for this, to the point that I stopped buying new releases from bands on Roadrunner because I knew that the next year they would put out another fucking version of the record. I remember doing this. No, actually, I remember buying Opeth's Ghost Reveries brand new when it came out, because Opeth is one of my all-time favorite bands. Ghost Reveries was the shit. Love that record. I bought that record, and then like a year and a half later, they came out with a special edition that had like a DVD and a cover song, and you know, a live song, and you know, one of the digipacks. Do you remember the digipacks? If you're old enough, you remember the digipack version. They would always put out the regular jewel case, and then later on they'd have a digipack that would come out with the extra shit. So you end up buying this fucking record twice, right? That's what a lot of bands were doing. Metallica never did that shit. Metallica never came out with like the special edition of one of the other fucking albums. They would just give you all the fucking music that they had, right? The Load that you buy today is no different. Like if you were to go in and buy a fucking copy of Load or Reload or Master of Puppets or anything, it's going to be basically the exact same fucking album as the one that you would have bought 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's not like, Yeah, they'll put out special releases now. They have like the full remastered and a bunch of live shit and things like that, demo tapes. Yeah, I know that part of it. But the actual album, it's not like they're putting out special tracks or special fucking extra songs that they didn't give to you the first time around. That's what I'm getting at. They don't have a bunch of songs that they recorded at the same time but didn't put on the record, and now they're going to sell you the record again so that you can get those extra two songs. They just gave you everything. They gave you everything they had. I think that there's something commendable about that. It's like, yeah, don't fucking go in and record 16 songs, give me 12, and then fucking 2 years later decide you want another $20, so and I want the other two songs, so I gotta go out and buy another fucking album so that I can get the full fucking thing. It's like the original DLC is almost what it's like. You know how these days video games, I don't really play video games, but I know when you buy a video game these days, it's like you have the base game, and then a fucking week later, they're like, oh, there's this DLC. If you pay us an extra $5, you'll get a little bit more. And then a month later, it's like, well, pay us another $8.99 and you'll get a little bit more. And fucking 6 months down the line, they're like, oh, this is the ultra super deluxe DLC. Pay us an extra 20 fucking dollars. By the time it's all said and done, you've spent 150 fucking dollars on this fucking game, right? It's kind of how the records used to be. It's like, okay, we'll give you the 10 tracks. Oh, next year, guess what? There were 2 songs that we didn't give you. You should buy this fucking version. And then 5 years down the line, they're like, hey, guess what? That tour was pretty successful. Now we've got a DVD we can sell you along with those extra 2 songs. So why don't you buy this version of it? Now it's $23 for this fucking thing. 10 years. Oh, it's the 10th anniversary. You know what I mean? They keep fucking sending it out there in a different packaging with a couple of extra songs. And you're like, motherfucker, what the fuck's going on here? Why do I keep getting fucking baited into buying this album over and over again? So anyway, Metallica just gave you all the shit that they had, right? And I think that when they put out this record, they really expected a much different kind of response. I don't think that they expected people to really, be so upset about what was happening. I think that they thought their fan base was going to embrace this new record as kind of their magnum opus. I think Load and Reload was essentially Metallica trying to make what people would generally consider their masterpiece. I think they were actively trying to make the record that people would go, this is the most incredible thing, that this band evolved from being like kind of gutter punk street musicians, just regular, thrash metal guys banging around on the low E string and yelling into a microphone. And over the years, they were able to make music that was a little bit more dynamic, had a little bit more blues influence, was still heavy. James Hetfield's vocals obviously improved. Even Lars is actually a pretty fucking good drummer on that record. And he does play with feel. He has some things that he does that maybe aren't technically the most difficult thing to play, but they fit the music very well. Obviously, Kirk Hammett went back and did his homework with Jimi Hendrix, and he played that kind of Hendrix-inspired blues rock solo style. I mean, he was fucking killing it at that style in the 90s. And Jason Newsted was doing really well, a really tasteful bass player. Maybe not the most shredding of bass players, but he was very tasteful. He had a lot of lines that really sit nicely in the fucking tunes, and obviously the production on the album. The production on Load is actually better than the Black Album. It's just that the Black Album kind of came first and was so incredible, so impressive upon first listen that you're like, holy shit, what the fuck? But Load basically took what the Black Album did in terms of production and then just was a little bit more so. Bob Rock got a little bit better at producing Metallica and getting the kind of sounds that they wanted. Songwriting, again, you can argue that maybe the songs themselves are not nearly as strong in certain cases. Like, Ronnie. Ronnie's a decent song, but it's kind of just your standard blues rock song. There's nothing really about that song that's like, wow, that's fucking mind blowing, you know? And maybe you could say that about literally any other song on the record. But for what it is, it's very well done. And the fact that the guys in Metallica could go from writing the kind of music that they did for the previous 10, 12 years of their existence to going to being able to just on a dime say, like, we're going to try something else here. We're going to go over into this sonic territory. We're going to bring in some of this Black Sabbath thing. We're going to try to kind of take a cue from the modern bands that we really like Alice in Chains. Obviously, Load is very heavily Alice in Chains inspired. Like, if this album said Alice in Chains on the front, if this was the album that Alice in Chains put out, all things the same songs, everything. If this was the album that Alice in Chains put out after Jar of Flies, this would be considered Alice in Chains' master fucking piece, more so than Low, or more so than Dirt. This album would be probably the best-selling Alice in Chains album of all time. But it's not Alice in Chains, it's Metallica. So there's an expectation. People wanted metal. They wanted, because of the implication of the word Metallica, they wanted their hot fucking heavy metal album. Metallica, you know, if you want to say they betrayed their fans, okay, I don't know if you can really do that. You're just a musician. You don't really owe these people anything necessarily, except for your gratitude. And if they give you money for a concert, you owe them a concert. If you give them money for an album, you owe them an album, but you don't owe them a specific style of music necessarily. Especially if you don't want to make that shit, you know? A lot of people seem to forget that part. It's like, look, if I don't want to make that song that you want to hear, tough shit, man. Go write your own fucking songs. And obviously a lot of people did. Metallica gave a lot of people the kind of music that they wanted. They gave them 5 albums worth of it, at least 4 albums worth of it, and said, look, you know, you've got the shit. If you want to reference it, you want to write more songs like that, be our guest. We'd love to hear it. You know, go for it. Do your thing. We did our thing. You know, they took their influence from Black Sabbath, from Judas Priest, from Motorhead, all of those things, right? And then they made their own thing. Nothing stopping the fans from doing that for themselves, right? Anyway, I think I've said my piece about this. I obviously do enjoy this record. Again, it's not quite as strong as Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning. Like, those 2 albums are pretty much, in my world, like, they're almost kind of their own classification. I can't even really say they're the best metal albums of all time. They're just like, they fucking stand in their own field. They're just like their own thing. But I do enjoy Load. I like that fucking record a lot. I like Reload. I think Metallica should have just put out both of them as the double album that they originally intended. I think that it would have been much better off if they would have just waited another year and put out Load and Reload as the single fucking release, the double album. And personally, I think they should have left the mascara and the fucking weird, like, underground alternative gay sex club imagery. Like, that whole fucking thing that Lars and Kirk spearheaded, wanting them to do that with all the photography. I think that shit is really what betrayed Load and Reload. I think if those guys came out with the same music, but just looked like regular fucking metalheads like they always looked, I think the reception would have been much different. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. It's a pretty new podcast. I've obviously ranted on this for a little while, but thanks for checking it out. Thanks for hanging out and listening. I would appreciate it if you like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree, and fight amongst yourselves in the comment section below. Have a good one. Later.